Look, we've all been there. You're sitting in the exam hall, the clock is ticking, the tension is building up in the room, and you flip the page to find a massive, complex scenario-based question. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're taking on literally one of the most high-stakes challenges you are going to face in your Cambridge Computer Science and IT exams. We are completely deconstructing Topic 2.5, the advantages and disadvantages of different types of user interfaces. And whether you're sitting for the Cambridge Information Technology AS and A-Level 9626, or you're tackling related syllabuses like 0417, 0478, 2210, or 9618, you know the pressure is absolutely real. This is not just about memorizing what a mouse does or what a keyboard is. That's basic stuff. This specific topic appears in every single examination series, without fail. And the difference between scraping a C grade and securing that top-tier A star, it almost always comes down to exactly how you structure your response. So, in this masterclass, we're going to get right inside the Cambridge examiner's head. We need to figure out exactly what they're really asking you to do when they throw a complicated user interface scenario onto your paper.
Okay, I want you to look at this quote. This is pulled straight from the Cambridge Principal Examiner reports. The people marking your papers actually wrote this. It says, the classic mistake is providing generic answers not specific to the question context. To understand exactly how fatal this mistake is, let's look at two hypothetical students side by side. On the left side, we've got Alex. Now, Alex is the classic over-preparer. Alex has memorized every single textbook definition. So when a UI question comes up, Alex overloads the answer with raw computer science facts. We're talking a massive list of every feature of a graphical user interface: windows, icons, menus, pointers, the whole shebang. But here's the problem. Alex includes zero analysis. It's just a giant wall of text. The examiner's red pen goes everywhere because Alex didn't answer the specific scenario. Now, on the right side, we have Sam. Sam knows the material just as well, but Sam is rushing against the clock. Sam completely misses the command word requirements. The question explicitly says, evaluate the interface for a visually impaired user, and Sam just describes the interface. Boom, massive marks lost. Alex gives a data dump of raw facts. Sam completely ignores the command word. We are going to make sure you do not fall into either of these traps.
So, how do we fix this? Here's our game plan for today. We're going to run through the core frameworks, then we'll break down the method mark, look at those top fatal mistakes you have to avoid, dive deep into mastering context, and finally, we'll give you the ultimate final exam strategy. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Deconstruct. We're looking at the core frameworks you need to shift your focus from just giving a superficial list of facts to providing real analytical depth. The secret sauce here is what we call evaluative thinking. What does that actually mean? Evaluative thinking means questioning assumptions, considering different perspectives, and most importantly, justifying your decisions with solid evidence. Examiners are hunting for this. When they test the higher-order cognitive domains of application and analysis, this is exactly what they want to see. Let's say your exam asks about a command line interface or CLI for a server administrator. Evaluative thinking isn't just writing down CLI is faster. That's just a generic assumption, right? Evaluative thinking means you consider the perspective of a total novice versus a seasoned expert. You justify your point by explaining that because the server administrator is highly trained and needs to execute complex batch files rapidly without the sluggish overhead of rendering graphics, a CLI is ultimately more efficient for them, despite its steep learning curve. You see what we did there? We justified the decision with contextual evidence. That's evaluative thinking in action. To guarantee you actually hit those evaluative marks every single time, you have to follow a standardized procedural framework. You systematically process any user interface question using these 4 steps. Step 1, identify the elements. Who is the user? What is the environment? Step 2, apply the principles. Which interface, voice, menu-driven, GUI, touch, actually makes sense here? Step 3, execute the analysis. And to do this perfectly, top students use the Peel framework. You make your point, you provide evidence from the scenario, you explain the technical reasoning, and you link it back to the outcome for the user. Finally, step 4, verify your results. Take a breath and check for reasonableness. Did you actually answer the command word, or did you just describe things like Sam did earlier? This 4-step deconstruct, solve, evaluate cycle is literally your safety net. Moving on to Section 2. Let's talk about how to solve these questions and secure what we call the method mark. Now, here is something a lot of students don't realize. Examiners actually award marks for your working out, for your logical progression, not just for miraculously arriving at the right answer at the end. They want to see your method. Let's do a quick 30-second mental challenge. I'm going to show you a flawed response and a top-tier response regarding voice recognition in a warehouse scenario. The flawed response says, voice recognition is good because it is hands-free. Okay, sure, but it's totally generic. Now look at the top-tier response. In the context of the busy, noisy warehouse floor described in the scenario, while voice recognition offers hands-free operation, allowing workers to carry boxes, the high background noise could lead to input errors, making a ruggedized touchscreen more reliable. Wow, spot the difference? The top-tier response clearly extracts data from the scenario, the noise, the boxes, and interprets the relationship to form a highly justified conclusion. They applied that Peel framework beautifully. When you write like this, the examiner's red marks turn into green check marks.
Before we continue, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at Ace the Exams IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon right now. Because mastering these exam strategies is how you accelerate your learning curve. Rote memorization just won't cut it anymore.
All right, let's pivot to Section 3. These are the examiner warnings, the top 3 fatal mistakes that will absolutely tank your grade. These 3 traps are highlighted directly in the principal examiner reports year after year. Mistake number 1, confusing cause and effect. Students constantly state an advantage of a user interface, but they get the technical reasoning completely backwards. For example, they'll say, a menu-driven interface is safe because it only allows certain options. No, that's not the full picture. You need to explain that because the system structurally restricts input to predefined menu options, the effect is a drastic reduction in invalid data entry, which ultimately increases system safety. See the flow? Cause, then effect. Mistake number 2, forgetting to check format and presentation. If the command word asks for a structured report and you just scribble down bullet points without clear headings, you lose the format mark instantly. You also have to use correct terminology. Don't call it the clicking thing, use the term WIMP environment or pointer. And mistake number 3, this is the big one, providing context-less generic answers. If you get a scenario about a mobile app for elderly users, you cannot just copy-paste a generic list of GUI advantages. You have to explicitly mention visual limitations or motor skill considerations for that specific demographic. Let's do a quick interactive workshop. I want you to play Find the Flaw. We have a 60-second visual timer running on screen for this. Read this sample paragraph about a hospital database interface. The hospital database should use a graphical user interface. It allows doctors to use windows, icons, menus, and pointers. GUIs are very intuitive and easy to learn for beginners. This will help the hospital staff. Okay, lock in your answer. Which sentence in that paragraph is bleeding marks? If you pick the third sentence, GUIs are very intuitive and easy to learn for beginners, you hit the nail on the head. Why? Because it completely ignores the context. The hospital scenario features highly trained doctors who need rapid, complex data entry. They aren't absolute beginners needing an intuitive interface, they need efficiency. The examiner would penalize this heavily for failing the context test. Stop scrolling. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at AceTheExams_IGCS to excel in your Cambridge examinations. We've helped thousands of students improve by 2-3 grade boundaries. Join them right now by subscribing to @AceTheExams_IGCS and turn on all notifications so you never miss our weekly exam strategy sessions. Okay, let's jump into Section 4, Evaluate. This is about mastering the context and reaching the highest tier of the assessment framework. This matrix right here is a total game changer. It shows exactly how the same UI concept gets scored entirely differently based on your cognitive tier. At the basic descriptive level, you're just listing things. A GUI uses icons, a CLI uses text. That's bottom tier scoring. If we move up to analytical, you're extracting relationships. You might say, a GUI requires more system resources than a CLI because it has to constantly render graphics. That's better, for sure, but it's not perfect. The top scoring candidates, they operate at the evaluative tier. They justify the recommendations based on the scenario. They'll write, while the GUI requires significantly more system resources, it is heavily recommended for the public kiosk scenario because the target audience lacks technical training, making the intuitive touch-based icon system far outweigh the initial hardware cost. Boom, that is evaluative. That is an A-star response. To consistently operate at that top evaluative level, you have to get ruthless about evaluating evidence quality. Think back to that deconstruct, solve, evaluate cycle. First, identify limitations in the scenario. If an exam prompt suggests a biometric user interface for a heavy-duty chemical lab, what's the limitation? Well, workers are likely wearing thick safety goggles and heavy protective gloves, meaning facial recognition or fingerprint scanners will fail completely. Next, spot assumptions. Do not assume all users have perfect vision or fine motor control. Third, look for alternative interpretations. Maybe a super simple rugged membrane keypad is fundamentally better than a fancy high-resolution touchscreen in a dusty industrial warehouse. And finally, assess the effect on conclusions. Check your final recommendation. Does it actually solve the core problem the examiner gave you? Now, I know that under the intense pressure of the exam room, your mind can just go totally blank. It happens to the best of us. So here is a highly practical memory hack. Create a mnemonic, using the first letters of key UI terms to anchor your memory. When you're evaluating any interface, I want you to write down the word VACE, V-A-C-E. V stands for visuals. Is the visual format appropriate for the screen size? A is for accessibility. Can the target user actually interact with it easily? C is for context. Does it fit the physical environment, like the noisy warehouse or the clean hospital? And E is for efficiency. Is it actually the fastest way to achieve the goal? Just scribbling VACE at the top of your paper during the first 5 minutes will instantly lock in the terminology you need to structure a perfect evaluation.
We are finally at Section 5. Let's pull the whole shebang together into the final exam strategy.
This is your definitive 3-rule system, your computer science success blueprint. Rule 1. Command word decoding. The literal second you read a question, identify if the command word says describe, analyze, or evaluate. Remember, evaluate means you absolutely must compare alternatives and give a justified conclusion. Don't pull a SAM and ignore the command word. Rule 2. Structural framework application. Use the Peel method every single time. Point, evidence, explanation, link. If we put 30 seconds on the clock right now for a speed writing challenge, your only goal would be to draft one perfect Peel paragraph. Rule 3. Strict context mapping tied to your time management matrix. Spend the first 10% of your time purely mapping the interface traits to the scenario. Never write a generic advantage. If you combine proper formatting, precise IT terminology, and highly specific scenario application, you are guaranteeing yourself top marks.
Listen, students who implement these computer science strategies see an average improvement of 2 grade boundaries, but only if they practice consistently with our weekly videos. Here's your final reminder. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Subscribe right now to @acetheexams_IGCSE and click that bell. Don't let another exam pass you by.
I'm going to leave you with one final provocative challenge to test these new skills. Imagine a scenario where a self-driving car needs an emergency override interface for a driver who is suddenly visually impaired by blinding sun glare. Based on everything we covered today about context, physical environments, and evaluative thinking, which user interface would you recommend, and what is your concrete, evidence-based justification? Work out your Peel paragraph mentally right now. Drop a comment below with your target grade for computer science and the biggest challenge you're facing. Our team responds to every comment. Like and share this video with a study partner. Ace the Exams. Your Cambridge success starts here. Keep thinking exactly like an examiner, and I'll see you in the next explainer.